I never do it. Okay, yeah, I'll hit you back, bro.
Good, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm feeling good. How are you? Good to see you. You been running for lunch? Here. We got more lunch.
Rain.
Mm-hmm. So you gotta get back there. What time is
We have like 60. Oh, we don't break it. How much representation is there? Girl, like, okay, wait until time. Oh, the way from for sure. Oh, these things should. Hey, you're right. Yeah, if we don't have to, I can do better to. I have to get off there like 11:00 and then get up.
Yeah.
I'll say that. We have a ginger ale.
That's.
I said it. But you know, what? It's so hard to find Canada Dry now. Yeah, because, yeah, it's so hard.
In, Dollar General, they put in where I took the last two.
Oh, talking about one, right?
No, this is one on Brooks.
Okay.
In the last one.
So usually, some you have like check at this Dollar General, and you have on the fourth thing where they have the seasonal thing, and they usually be there sometimes.
And the store, they have them on the refrigerator.
I don't know how to sit there.
I like seeing
I went to go make copies of the agenda.
What is this here? That's not. And make sure you get that. It's not, you have that, and I was trying to remember. I can't get it.
12:54.
Yeah, I see. Whatever y'all be doing, it helps.
Yeah, the printer turned off and I was trying to make copies, so I'm getting some. You can have this.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I can't help with that.
Hey, I. Well, I got you don't know where? I got it there. Anyway, right out Costco. About 3.5 years ago.
Probably look at their friend. No, you just say.
No, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go. Finding you, how you doing? Hey, how you
Hi, there you go. How are you? Good to see you. Yes, I'm gonna turn this.
Oh, yeah. Right. Good. Pretty good. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right, right. Working the port efficiency, all right? At the port efficiency, right? Okay. They on the job, boy. You don't wanna know me. But if you see the search, you probably won't see me though. You'll probably see my phone. Well, yes, settle down.
Did you have, how you doing, good morning? Did you have any, thank you. All right.
Here in my space, please move.
Is your name in that
Please
square?
get from over. Please get from over.
I can't get it out.
Over. Right.
We'd like to welcome you. We'll call this meeting to order. Did you guys have somebody that was saying information? Annette Brown, would you mind saying the closing prayer? I can ask her because she can beat me after.
Hey. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for the moisture that we are receiving. And we're thankful to be gathered here in Mayesville, South Carolina as a group of council and as citizens. We're thankful for the opportunity to live in this free country and to be able to exercise our freedoms. Father, at this time, we would pray that there will be a spirit of peace here in this meeting, that there will be understanding and a willingness to listen to each other. We ask that thou would bless all those who are here, that they will feel that they are truly a part of this community, that they will be able to grow together and help to build Mayesville. Father, we ask thee to bless us now with health and strength and protection. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Council, if you would look over the agenda and see if you approve, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, Councilwoman Benjamin, you have something that you wanted to say as far as the reason for the attorney and the candidate review.
Yeah, it was just the reason for the attorney and our candidate review. Therese, can you read the
Sure.
ordinance and
Okay, so how a town attorney is selected by ordinances. Section 2-72, appointment or election of municipal attorney and judge of municipal court. The city council may elect or appoint a municipal attorney and a judge or judges of the municipal court, whose duties shall be prescribed by law. No mayor or councilman shall be so elected or appointed to serve as municipal judge during his term of office. The council together selects an attorney, not the mayor dictating who the candidate would be. Council had a lawful interview with Attorney Carter,
Wait.
and in the last monthly council meeting, Mayor Brown said no to asking questions. Please,
Stop for
council,
a second, please. Did you ask for the code to be read and what did you ask to be read?
It was the reason for the attorney, the town attorney and the candidate review.
Okay, you started into
I'm reading.
code. Okay, we'll forego that. We all know the reason in the town of Mayesville why we need an attorney right now. We'll just.
Mayor Pro Tem asked me to read it, so I was reading what she asked me to read.
We'll wait. If there's something that we need after. Thanks.
What do you mean?
If there's something that we need after, we'll ask for it.
So you don't want me, you're saying to stop reading it? You want him to tell me to stop reading it?
I mean, why would she start reading? She just reading the reason for the attorney and the candidate review.
The reason for the attorney. Not
Can
bringing,
you read the reason for the attorney,
she already read it.
The reason for what?
the attorney?
Okay.
Because of the two points, right?
So there are two FOIAs, one which is suing the town of Mayesville, and the other, according to Mayor Brown, is going to sue next. Due to Mayor Brown taking records from the office, an attorney is needed to work this out. Mayor Brown is currently in an open action with South Carolina Human Affairs, which council knows nothing about. At this point, council doesn't know what Mayor Brown is doing because he has not been transparent with any of his actions. This creates potential liability for the clerk, the council, and the clerk treasurer. The council has also taken notice of Mayor Brown's repeated willful violations of the town of Maysville ordinances.
You're
That
out,
is the
you are out
end.
of order.
I'm not out of order.
You are,
I'm doing
because
what I
That's
asked.
the end, Teresa?
Yes, that's the end.
So the next is the attorney candidate question.
All right, so we have got two attorneys here. That will turn some time over to the council to ask questions that you guys need to answer. You have questions for them?
No, they said council question, and it's first, and then they. Oh, she was asking, was this the order, the audience participation, for the questions and the answers to the attorney, but, the council is, it's the council turn to do the question and answer to the attorney, and then it's the, town participation, for the attorneys.
Okay. What she's saying right
Councilman
now
Ricks, you
is,
can unmute.
right now, we'll turn some time over to council to ask the questions to both of the attorneys. Should be the same questions, so each of them have a chance to offer explanation of what they can do for the town of Mayesville. And then we'll turn some time over to the citizens of Mayesville. What I'd like to do more than anything, because there were 7 people that represented the town of Mayesville, so that it is not a heated discussion or anything like that. They already had an opportunity to meet with attorneys. They didn't have a chance to meet with Mr. Eliezer Carter. So they'll get an opportunity to ask some of those same questions that they asked the other 2 attorneys. So I'll give time right now to the council to be able to ask those questions that they have for both attorneys.
I would like to ask Mr. Carter, would you tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'll gladly tell you guys about myself. Again, my name is Eliezer Carter. In rural areas like this, people tend to call me Eliezer Carter. That doesn't make a difference what you call me. It really does. I practice law in the Manning, South Carolina, practiced in Columbia for about 10 or 15 years, and I've been down in Manning, South Carolina. My practice is in the area of, like with most small towns, you tend to do a little bit of everything, personal injury, that kind of stuff. But from when I was in Columbia, I practiced in the area of school law, doing a lot of schoolwork, county law, and municipalities. I represent a couple of towns here in South Carolina and, one out of state. I've been practicing now going on 36 years, in doing public law. Public law is the law regarding governmental agencies. Been born and raised in Somerton, South Carolina, Scotts Branch High School, and I presently now practice solo, my law practice, that is in Manning, South Carolina. Again, as I indicated, doing public law, which is governmental law for towns, school boards, things of that nature. And I do personal injury and criminal law. I did do solicitor work for, Solicitor Penny, couple of 10 years or so ago. And right now I'm just doing a general practice and specializing. Well, I don't specialize as the rules for lawyers require, I'm going to specialize, but mostly in government law, doing cases regarding government, town employees, town, preparing ordinances and doing tax cases. I'm presently involved in a complex tax case between a municipality and county. I guess that's it in a nutshell. Entertain any other questions from council.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Mr. John Bowes. Same question.
All
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm John Bowes from Smith Robinson Law Firm in Columbia. Smith Robinson Law Firm was formed from two predecessor firms, the Bowes Law Firm in Camden, South Carolina, and the Lee Law Firm in Sumter. About 4 or 5 years ago, the firms combined because we have synergy in the areas that we practice, and we just personally knew each other. My law partner, John Robinson, is very good friends with Noel Smith, has been for years. We've worked with him through the years to begin thought it best to combine forces. Like Mr. Carter, pretty much specialized, and again, specializations of loading term for attorneys, focus on government law, practice 20 years, represent several counties. We've represented several municipalities. Right now, our firm has 3 attorneys, myself included, who are county attorneys, 17 attorneys in total, and have a dedicated government practice group. Defend local governments through the South Carolina Property Liability Trust, which is a self-insured trust for one cohort of counties. And then we do insurance reserve fund defense work, which again, it's kind of the balance of other local governments. So we defend liability lawsuits against local governments on a regular basis. It's a huge part of our practice. Again, Mr. Carter and I have had cases together in the past. I used to do quite a bit of personal injury defense work, rep cases, AKA rep cases. I've not done much rep case work in probably the last 8-9 years, as our government practice has grown through time. But collectively among our government attorneys, we have about 78 years of experience. Again, 3 attorneys doing government work more or less full time. I do have clients. Many of those are kind of quasi-governmental or somewhat related to government work, represent utilities and acquiring land for right-of-ways, and also governmental entities acquiring land through condemnation that I don't directly represent as their county or again, municipal. And do bond work stuff as well. I've got a big background in property law. So often bond attorneys engage our firm to do the due diligence and the property components of bond work. Happy to answer any other questions. That's a capsule summary.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Ricks. You have any?
Yes, ma'am.
If you have any questions, you can ask them.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna start with Mr. Eliezer first, and then I'll go to Mr. DeBose. Mr. Eliezer, is your licensing in good standing with the South Carolina Bar Association?
I can give you a simple answer of yes, but do you want me to give you an explanation with the yes?
That'll be great.
All right, good. Well, the simple answer is yes. It has never been at risk with the South Carolina Bar or the South Carolina Supreme Court. And I'll try to wrap this up in a nutshell. It is my understanding from listening to one of you all's meetings, I think the mayor referred to me as an unethical lawyer. And I'll say this in a real nutshell kind of way. In or about 2006, I had some dealings with the inmate that was incarcerated, and he attempted to do a flamboozle on me with regards to his retainer agreement. And at that time, when I refused to represent him, I got an investigation done on me on that matter, and the Judicial Council recommended that I receive a private reprimand. I'm sorry, a private letter of caution. And in the process of doing that, that pretty much ended it until about 2012, when I was running for state senate, and the South Carolina Supreme Court Chief Justice took the issue up on her own from 2006 all the way to 2012 to review it again. And I felt confident that that issue related to me running for a public office, the South Carolina State Senate. That was my position on it. But of course, being that she's part of the Supreme Court, she can do whatever it is she wants, including create or set aside what would be the facts of the case. And from that, on her own motion, she brought the case before the Supreme Court. And I felt confident that there was some relations between then and the person who used to hold the office. And I believe that that was done to designed to damage my reputation in terms of running for office. Now, that's my position on it. Of course, you know, they would have a different position about it. I only chose to give you these facts specifically because, as I said, at the last meeting that was held, I noticed the mayor kept referring to me as an unethical lawyer, which, you know, tends, and I'm not bothered by that. I'm not bothered by, I mean, if I'm selected as your attorney, I can comfortably work with them despite that, because my job is to represent my client and not to represent personalities or individuals who stand in the place of the work that has to be done, or who stands with the work that has to be done. I hope that answered your question. I'll gladly give you more if you want to follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Eliezer. The second question that I have for you is, do you represent a municipality?
The answer to that question is yes, I represent more than one municipality. I don't tend to give my clients' names out unless they voluntarily want to share that with you, but the answer is yes, I presently do and have been for more than 15 years, actually 18 years.
Okay. The last and final question is, why did you not attend Mayor Brown's meeting at the fire station to be interviewed among the other candidates for the town attorney?
Thank you for asking that question, and I actually kind of forgot about that. All right, so when the mayor called me and told me about it, I made preparations to go to it, but I had COVID. And not only did I have COVID, but I think my COVID continued even with the other meeting. I think it was even with the other meeting. Of course, you know, the other meeting was via Zoom, so it really didn't make a difference. But on the date of the mayor's, I had COVID, and then it dawned on me that he was having his meeting, and it was much after 5 o'clock. And I was sick in bed. That's the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. That's all I have for you. Mr. DeBose, the first question that I have for you is your license in good standing with the South Carolina Bar Association?
Yes, sir. Councilman Ricks, it is. And that's full stop. No context or explanation needed for anything.
Okay, thank you. And the second and final question I have for you, Mr. DeBose, is, do you represent a municipality?
No, not currently. We represent a lot of counties. We do a lot of municipal work. Right now, the firm, has representation in part of, and like Mr. Carter, I don't want to name, direct clients without their permission, but a municipal client in the county of Florence, and a municipal client in the county of Aiken without identifying them. But we do regularly do quite a bit of ad hoc municipal work. Again, have represented municipalities, do represent currently several counties.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I have for both attorneys.
Yeah. Over done. For both of the attorneys, what and if any experience do you have working with nonprofits, specifically 501c3s? Mr. Carter?
What experience do I have working with them? I've represented them. I've represented them. I mean, what are you asking me? Have I been participating with one, been a part of one?
All
Or
your
just the legal?
experience, all your experience, that's all I'm asking.
Okay, well, I've represented 501c3 organizations, and I guess I have worked with them in the sense that I attended meetings. I didn't participate in voting on anything, but attended meetings, kept up with their accounting. And when I say accounting, kept up with monies that flowed in and out of them.
And how did you represent them?
Well, any legal issues that came up, any documents that have to be filed. Fortunately, I've never represented any of them in terms of going to court. But representation isn't just court, representation is being present and attending their meetings and or answering legal questions.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bowles?
Same question. It's easier as the second person answering these questions because you can kind of just vote the prior response from my colleague in the bar here, Mr. Carter. Very similar experience, represented 501s, set them up, regularly deal with them, as I'm sure Mr. Carter does in the context of the government attorney. Very often governments will get grants, give them the subrecipients. You have to set up that framework to be a pass-through for grant funds to 501c3s that are effectuating grant purposes if the local government can't do it themselves. They'll often take a 501c3 and have it be the instrument of effectuating that policy goal that's being advanced by the government. So again, similar experience, represented 501c3s have set them up, regularly work within the context of representing the government and interfacing with 501c3s to accomplish public projects.
Thank you. What if there any experience you have analyzing, complying, or challenging FOIA requests?
You asked what experience I have. Well, I have about 36 years of doing it. In terms of FOIA requests, before a lawsuit is filed, I've dealt with it in the sense of responding to whatever the question is or request for documents from members of the general public. And I've dealt with it in the sense of guiding the governmental agency's compliance person, or whether it's the clerk or whether it's council members or whatever, or just some general employee, telling them how to respond to it. I've dealt with it in terms of representing a town after they've been sued with regards to freedom of information and resolving the issues. Most of the time trying to resolve it without the town having to pay any money. But that's tend to be resolved or done a lot better if you can resolve or provide the requested information that is requested before somebody gets to the point where they're gonna file a lawsuit. The general thing is when somebody requests freedom of information, you have so many days that you have to respond to the request. You don't have to provide, give me all of the town's financial records. you only need to respond to them so many days, before, after they've requested that thing, you respond to them and say, yes, I'm gonna give it to you. And as long as you meet that response within that 10-day period, you can take whatever time afterward, as long as you're keeping them abreast of, okay, we're still working on it. Well, now, this document that you're requesting is going to take 3 employees working. These employees make $20 an hour. I'm just using that as an example, $20 an hour. And we anticipate it's gonna be 4 days with all 3 of them working on it. Or it's only gonna take 1 day in this, but we have to request the documents from archives. I mean, that time, with regards to the freedom of information, you have to indicate to them, again, that I'm going to respond, or I'm not going to respond, or the response is, we don't have those documents. Or the response is, well, we're doing an accounting and the accountant hadn't finished with it yet. Our accountant is Joe Blow Accounting Firm. So your question is what experience I have with it. Any aspect of what somebody can request from Freedom of Information, I'm clearly, thoroughly aware of it, and I'm aware of the Freedom of Information laws in general. Thank you.
Again, it's easy going second. We represent, again, several local governments. Many of them do not have public information officers. So they will process easy FOIAs on their own. Anything that might lead to litigation or has some meat on the bone usually gets sent to our office for processing and acknowledgement. What Mr. Carter said is correct. You have a certain statutory time period to provide an acknowledgement of the request and some initial determination as to the availability of the records. Then you again have a statutory timeline from the date you send that acknowledgement to provide the actual records. You can get extensions in time by mutual consent through writing, or you can go to the court. Most FOIA requesters are certainly happy as long as you're working on it to provide them the information. I think Mr. Carter correctly said that as long as you're making good faith efforts, more or less, you can have as much time as you need unless someone's completely obstinate. And then, of course, the court is your remedy in that situation. You can charge a reasonable cost for reproduction at the rate of the lowest hourly paid employee capable of doing the production work, i.e. you can't charge a requester $100 an hour and say your highest level employee has to review the information. You basically have to take the lowest rate of pay for who is capable of doing it, whether that person does it or not. That is the rate you can charge. You can ask for a statutorily set deposit on your anticipated cost of production. Many local governments use that for people that try and use FOIA as an instrumentality of harassment. Essentially, some people will file FOIA requests for 20 years of records that are voluminous, unless there was a mechanism for the government to say it would take a full-time employee a year working on this 8 hours a day to fill your request, and therefore we require a deposit of that before you even start working on it. You have people abusing the system like stuff. But yeah, process 2 or 3 FOIAs this morning, process FOIAs all week long, every week. It's a large part of practice. And as Mr. Carter said, there are very set timelines that are important to me. But yeah, any local government attorney has a lot of experience with FOIA, for good or bad. A lot of people utilize it. Some utilize it as a reference for perhaps impure purposes, but it's an important statute transparency. It's there for transparency for the public. It serves a good purpose. So you have to treat every request on its face, I guess, initially, like it is done in good faith and process it. Yeah, it's a long way of saying I have a lot of experience with FOIA matters, as does my firm. And I will say, as Mr. Carter, I mean, if you work in local government, you deal with FOIA all the time. Thank you.
Mr. Carter, who is your client? The mayor, the town council members, the town as a separate entity?
In representing municipal governments, governmental agencies, but in particular, you're asking about municipalities. The client is the town. the town tends. Towns, cities have, strong mayor form of government, weak mayor council form of government, or mayor council form of government. You represent the town and you take your directions from the governing body based on, the makeup of the town's government. So, my understanding is this town is a mayor council form of government. So my client is the town and the managing persons of the government. So I take directions from the governing body of the town, which for you guys, I mean, it's different for other clients I have, but for you guys, unless I am incorrect of this being a mayor council form of government, my directions come from you all, unless you designated a specific person to take directions from.
So,
You as in the council, that is.
so if you were to be contacted by a council member or a mayor individual, how would you respond?
You guys would tell me, direct me on how to take directions. I have clients where the administrator is the only person that contacts. And of course, councilmen will all contact everybody, even with the school board members. The superintendent is supposed to be the only one to contact you, but all the board members will contact you. When you do something officially that you're going to document for pay, you do it based on the direction that the governing body tells you. Okay, well, we'll be calling you to do blah, blah, blah. The mayor may be calling you to do something, or the council may have appointed a committee where there's a committee member directed to contact me. I don't think I have a police department, so, but you know, the police department, you do have a police department? Sure. Oh, that's not yours, no. He represents us, but that's not yours. I only brought that up to say, a lot of times the governmental body will allow the chief of police to call because of different issues that might arise. But when it comes to a municipality, and I'll say, let's say small town, because it would be different for a bigger city. When it comes to a small town municipality, everybody tends to call. But in terms of who I document or pay from, I take it from them. If you don't tell me, then I take if you don't direct a person for me, then I'll take it from everybody who calls me for whatever the issue is. I mean, as long as it's town business.
Yeah. Mr. Close, same thing.
So Mr. Carter's touched on an interesting aspect of representing local governments again, which is you have a official client for official actions of the local government, but all entities have questions that arise, concerns that arise at all levels of operation. And again, Mr. Carter's correct. It's always been my experience that it varies by client. Some clients want the flow of information to go straight through an administrator, or again, the point of contact will be designated. Some entities want you available to, again, pick up the phone and provide a quick response, or at least some steering to department heads or any level of local government. But at the end of the day, yes, your client is the entity, the structure of the entity matters as far as operational control. Mr. Carr's mentioned in practice, it's all over the board. You know, unless directed otherwise, and there is some clear directive from a council or mayor or administrator that I'm the one that you talk to and everything flows through me, then again, the default is I'm going to assume that if a official of the entity contacts me with a question, that I have the authority to give them a 2 cents, certainly keep council in the loop, or in the case where you have a situation like, say you have an administrative council form of county government, the administrator is kind of the point of contact, the default point of contact. Yeah, you keep your client in the loop, and again, it's kind of up to the client who they want you to speak to and when. But at the end of the day, as Mr. Carter correctly said, the entity is your client. how they want to deal with you is largely up to them. Officially, it might be a certain set situation, but operationally, not always the case. It's at the discretion and pleasure of the department, in short.
Let me keep you standing. What's an example of a case that you've handled associated with governing a town in a positive manner?
Recently got a spot zoning lawsuit dismissed in October, brought against a county I represent. County rezones property for commercial use. It's allegation of spot zoning, briefed it, filed a motion to dismiss, succeeded in that. Had many cases through the years of local governments. That's the first one on the top of my mind, again, because it's the most recent. And it's, again, it was a quick and efficient and beneficial result for the client. Mr. Carter will probably echo this, but if you can win at a motion to dismiss, the deck is certainly stacked in your favor generally, given our burden of proof and our court system. But yes, most recent example off the top of my head. I've been involved in many condemnation actions for local governments where you're requiring property and litigating it. And again, property owners want a certain value, the government appraises it wants another value. I've by and large been much closer to the government side than the landowner side, which means you don't have to pay the attorney's fee as other land. They might get more money than was offered sometimes, as long as they don't get closer to their number that they've demanded versus what the government's provided as compensation for the land that's being taken for some public purpose. You don't really have to deal with their attorney's fees. So that's been a fairly regular occurrence in the situation.
Thank you.
The question is, what is the most recent or a situation where I've represented a town in a positive manner? Did I get that correct? Well, and when you say represent, I assume that representation means court or judicial proceedings, correct?
Anything that you've done positive?
Well, every town that I've represented, I believe I've done everything positive. Anytime there is, anytime there is litigation.
Give us specific.
Anytime, I'll do that. Anytime there is litigation, your objective as the attorney is to do work that's positive, do work that the community can see what it is that's going on. Specifically, I have a case that I'm representing a town with, and the town is attempting to collect some monies from the county. And the county don't want to give them the money. This money's from the capital penny sales tax. And one of the things I've been trying to do is to get the county to, what I believe to do is follow the law. And when the county refused to follow the law, we were forced to bring a lawsuit, and the county hired this big, strong law firm. This big, strong law firm. Okay, as I was
That's very.
Out of order.
were you offended?
No, I mean, that said, there are two sides to every story.
Right, you're welcome to offer if you want, but just so I can finish your question.
That didn't say
And I won't answer any questions from the public, by the way. I want to emphasize, I want to make sure that I emphasize it. But at any rate, the question is, what have I done in a positive way in the representation? I believe that in representing this small town against their county government, I believe that the county government owed them something. And I believe that the county government was holding back. So what I did was had a discussion with my clients, and my clients had some public people to participate so that they would learn what it is or what we believe that the county did not do for my small town client. And so the positive way I believe I represented them was showing them what the law is what the citizens voted for, why the county was, and I did this in an extra additional way because I've been representing them for years and they haven't paid me one brown penny for the representation to this date. And I believe that the positive representation I've given them is to inform them of what their rights were and what they voted for and why and how the county has not been good faith to them, giving them good faith or giving them their tax monies that they're required, under my opinion and under my council's opinion. So the good faith part I've contributed is we've engaged in a long representation. My good faith part is they haven't paid me and I continue to aggressively represent them. Okay, now that's not to talk about, well, I really believe my side is right and I absolutely will fight for it to the end. I'm sure the other side have an opposite opinion on it. But we're still waiting. We haven't made it to court yet. And
So there is no result. There is no.
Well, it is a positive result. I'm representing them. I met with them, gave them information about what their rights were. They haven't paid a penny for it yet. I'm representing them in court. They haven't paid a penny for the legal work yet. And I'm just thinking of that. I have a whole lot of other situations where I represented the town where there were issues with council members. The council member versus the town, or the school board member versus the school district. So positive result. I gave them information that they needed to know, that the public needed to know to prevent them from filing freedom of information requests. So
Thank you.
that's it.
Mr. DeBose, what is your firm's policy regarding communication? What's your preferred method of communication, and what is your policy in regards to emails, return calls, replying to letters, turnaround time?
Thanks for the clarification, because I was about to ask for it. So, for communications, generally, I try to have a 24-hour rule of responding to clients. If they contact me, even if it is not substantive, to let a client know that I have received their request, so that at least they know it's not sitting off in the ether. Routinely copying a paralegal and associate attorneys on communication, so they're in the loop. If I get sick, I'm unavailable, people know what is going on with the matter, and can at least get back to the client with basic information, and perhaps even a response. Sometimes it's just, where are we on X? So we got a certain document back from, Joe Smith on something. I don't necessarily have to answer those questions, especially if I'm not available. So I try to keep my team in the loop so that, again, if I can't provide a response, they can. Typically, I provide my cell phone to elected officials, department heads, so that government matters can be handled efficiently. For instance, I'm here today, but if a client sends me a text, it's sitting on my phone, or leaves me a voicemail for me to call them back on the ride out here. So I try to make myself available. Again, try to respond within 24 hours to emails, calls. Sometimes the volume of calls that you get is such that 24 hours goes by, but again, that is the biggest complaint I've heard, and studies been done among the bar. The biggest complaint about attorneys from clients is non-responsiveness. That's something our firm is very serious about. We've always been serious about it. Because your client's concerned about their legal issues, they might be worried about it. And if they send you something and don't hear it back, they're going to continue to be worried, and then worry that you're not focused on it. So again, try to do 24 hours, I would say, in full disclosure. Sometimes that is not met, because I might be in court for an entire day and I'm catching up on a full day of emails and, 5 or 6 texts and 8 voicemails, but try and provide timely responses, and again, incorporate my associate attorney who works on my government team as a local paralegal. So if it's just a plain vanilla question or a request for information that a junior attorney or a paralegal can just process it. And again, that's more efficient, it saves client money, because you're not paying the attorney at a high level, an experienced attorney, a lot of money to do a review of a very simple, request.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, same thing.
I ditto what council just indicated, the answer is within 24 hours.
Okay, so I have a few questions for you because I had an opportunity to set up times for everybody to meet. What's that? I had an opportunity to call you 4 times the day of our meeting, but didn't get a response back, nor did I get a response back even after that. This is the first time that I've heard that you had COVID.
That's a statement or a question?
Question, answer.
Okay, like council indicated, when your client calls you, you get back to them within, you try to get back to them within 24-hour period.
But you specifically said, yes, I will be there, but never even contacted them that, even 4 times calling to make sure as we were waiting for you. We got nothing.
As I indicated, when my clients call me, I make sure that I get back with them within a 24-hour period.
Got it.
When I'm being called,
Right.
for a setup meeting, it, I don't want to say it takes less priority, but my health take first priority. And when it dawned on me, about your meeting, I had already been out of the office for 3 days, I think 3 days. And it dawned on me that, that Friday that, oh, it's almost 5 o'clock. I was still out in bed. Oh,
Thank you. So what I'm gonna do, so that the public doesn't, have to come up with any questions. There are 7 individuals that were part of the committee that had an opportunity to interview, except for Mr. Carter. I will give a little bit of time for each of them, be very brief, be very short for each one of them. So I will give opportunity for those 7 people. I think there's 4 of them here today. If they would like to ask any of the questions of these candidates.
Mr. Mayor,
On the,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. On the agenda, we have the attorney question and answer for the public, which is 5 minutes within everybody.
That's why I narrowed it down. So we'll give some time to those people that represented the general community. If they have any other questions, yes, ma'am.
I am Mr. Washington. I have one question I would like to ask. What is one skill that makes you the right candidate to serve as attorney for the town of Mayesville? And I have another question. How familiar are you with the law and ordinance of our town?
What was the second question?
How familiar are you with the law and ordinance that governs Mayesville?
Okay. Question 1, what makes me right for representing this town is, I represent other small towns. Okay, what makes me right for representing you is that your issues tend to be, while they're different, because all towns' issues are different, they ultimately end up being a lot of the same things. Small towns, you tend to have a limited number of employees, so you don't have a whole lot of termination issues where you're prosecuting somebody's termination or grievance procedure, which I've done a lot of. Because I have represented small towns for a lot of years, your issues tend to be the same thing. am I familiar with your law and ordinance of this town? I am familiar with, the ordinance from a lot of towns. They tend to follow those things from the municipal association, who tends to give reference to any type of new ordinance that a small town might want to set up. I'm familiar with that. Have I read the ordinances for Mayesville? The answer is no. I've not read your ordinance, but I'm pretty comfortable that your ordinance tend to be the same, with the exceptions of something specific for your community, as any of the ordinances of other small towns, because they tend to come from the South Carolina Municipal Association. And the South Carolina Municipal Association tends to help all small towns put their ordinance books together. A lot of small towns have their ordinance online, where you can go and pull them up and print them out or do whatever it is. I don't believe you all do. I wouldn't be able to find it.
Yes, yeah.
Same question. To echo what Mr. Carter said, local government by and large is local government. Variations of the theme. If you represent local governments for long enough, you keep seeing things. It's like the insurance carrier. We know a thing or two because we see a thing or two. It's a truism in local government. Yes, the municipal association generally kind of has template local ordinances. They get modified here and there, but they are by and large follow the same general structure. Yeah, our firm, myself, have a lot of government law experience. I view my role, I don't mean for this to sound flippant maybe, but I'm just here to call balls and strikes. I don't have any particular allegiance to any elected official versus another, because again, the client is the entity and you do not want the entity to get in trouble. As a local government attorney, you are often faced with tough situations where you do have to call balls and strikes in very uncomfortable situations. I've done that many times. It's not always the funnest thing to do or the most pleasant thing to do, but we do have, and I have experience stepping into charged environments and again, calling balls and strikes without any agenda. Again, like Mr. Carter, lots of experience in local government. Again, I would echo once again, sound like a broken record, but Mr. Carter's right, it is variations of the theme. You've done it long enough, you've seen the various flavors, and it might not be the exact same facts or the exact same issues that might face Mayesville, but that another client is faced with. The Venn diagram overlap is sometimes so close that it might as well be the same case. So again, repetitions at county government level, local government level with municipalities, again, have a broad range of representing clients of different sizes and sophistications too. Mr. Carr is correct. Mayesville does not have a ton of employees. The budget's probably not through the roof. Representing clients that essentially all governments are trying to have a limited budget, but have a extremely robust budget and hundreds of employees. So yeah, seeing the broad scale at all levels, dealt with legal issues of various sophistication at all levels. Again, just aim to call balls and strikes if I'm selected.
Thank you. Any other community members? Sir.
Two questions for each. And one of these may have been covered before I came in. Mr. Carter, have you ever defended a circuit court appeal of the Board of Appeals for a local municipality or county in circuit court? And specifically, if you had, could you reference the case?
No, I can't reference the case. The answer to your question is yes, I have represented a municipality in, you said the Circuit Court of Appeals. I assume you just mean.
Excuse me, circuit court. I'm sorry. Appeals to the circuit court. Forgive me.
Okay, an appeal to the circuit court?
Of an action of the BOA.
No. I've never had any case that was appealed to the circuit court. No, none of my clients have ever been involved in a situation that was appealed to the circuit court.
Thank you. Mr. DeBose?
So if I understand the question, at least in the context of land use planning, you will have administrative decisions of local government, or even a board of zoning appeals, depending on kind of what decision was made and what the appeal process is under code. But yeah, those matters sometimes, if this is the question, we go to circuit court and get appealed. As far as the government's interpretation of a certain statute or application of a certain statute to a land use matter, have dealt with those. The spot zoning case I mentioned earlier was an appeal of county council action and rezoning, but that appeal of the county council action goes directly to the circuit court as far as the decisions. It's a challenge, it's a legal challenge to a government decision, but it could be categorized as an appeal. And then there are some that are, again, direct appeals from like a BZA. So, yeah, handle kind of both flavors. Maybe to Mr. Carter's point, the county council action or a council action that gets appealed maybe isn't a big A appeal, but essentially, yes.
All right, that's 5 minutes is up. It's actually went over a few minutes. Councilman Ricks has to get back to lunch.
Yes, ma'am.
It's supposed to be 5 minutes. The 5 minutes is up and council has to get to work.
Please, go ahead.
You guys will please speak to your experience of how directly to a meeting according to the logic.
Sure. 5 minutes is up. We got council that is,
Councilwoman Benjamin, working to finish in my opinion.
we're not on our agenda says attorney question and answer. The public participation was 5 minutes, and me and you, we just talked about that. You gotta be quiet, 'cause
It's time to vote. It's time for the council to vote. It's time for a vote.
Did you say, Councilman Ricks?
It's time for a vote. They have their 5 minutes of the citizen participation. It's time to vote.
Exactly.
I will go ahead.
That's next on the agenda.
I will go ahead.
You're not answering for 5 minutes ago.
I just need a motion.
On the agenda, no, we approved the agenda, and the agenda was approved. And on one of the things that was approved on the agenda is attorney question and answer public 5 minutes. 5 minutes is over.
Okay.
So now it's time
First
to
of all,
vote to the town.
All of you have an agenda. Does there say that it goes for 1 hour?
It don't say 1 hour, but it says public participation, public 5 minutes.
Okay, so.
And we approved the agenda.
I can see my question for you this time.
Say that one more time.
She can say your question to the.
So. I make a motion that we have an opportunity as council to meet before our March meeting to discuss possibly an executive session. If we can discuss the 2 candidates and make a decision for the March city council.
Says here that your vote
We heard from both candidates. We can go forward with the vote today.
Yes.
There's no need to.
Okay, we're making a motion right now to wait until our town council will do an executive session. We can discuss as council, which is going to be best to suit the town of Mayesville. Is there a second? If there is no second, then I move to adjourn this meeting. And we'll call another meeting that the council can meet.
Absolutely not. We're here to, vote.
I just asked for a vote.
Okay, I make a motion that we hire Miss Attorney Carter for the temp to be the town's attorney. Oh, we want to vote. Well, I didn't make the motion down.
This is
Don't do that.
And I second it.
Second.
Nay.
Councilman Ricks didn't hear it.
So after the second, there's supposed to be a discussion. So Councilman Ricks, do you have any discussion on the matter?
Councilman Ricks, can you still hear us?
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear.
There's a discussion before the council. Do you have anything that you want to input?
No.
Councilwoman Massingill.
No, sir, I voted in the fall.
Councilman Benjamin, any discussion? I don't think that this is a proper way to hire somebody that is going to represent the town of Mayesville. I think there needs to be some more discussion. I think there needs to be some meeting with both of them.
A point of reference. Council did vote no for Attorney DuBose on February 13th. So what would they, what were you expecting? Like, you have him here, interviews were held, council already voted, so what was supposed to?
Well, interviews were never held with.
You said no to that.
Thank you.
So the motion is. Ms. Massingill.
I already made the motion and she said.
Yeah.
Ms. Massingill made a motion to hire Mr. Carter as the attorney for the town of Mayesville. It's been seconded by Councilman Ricks. They've had the discussion. Yes, ma'am. And so individual votes, Councilman Ricks.
Can he hear?
Could you repeat that, Mayor Brown?
Yes. Your vote individually for the record.
I vote for Attorney Carter.
Councilwoman Massingill.
Attorney.
Thanks. Councilwoman Benjamin.
Attorney Carter.
Okay. The vote is for Mr. Eleazar Carter to be the town of Mayesville attorney. I have a nay to that. If there's no other discussion, then this meeting will be adjourned.
We don't get to say anything?
Sorry. Thank you for coming.
Everybody gonna motion to help you finish closing the meeting out now?
Make motion to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, adjourned.
I got to